Welcome to the Darkstream, Voxday, voxday.blogspot.com, and unauthorized.tv. Thanks for tuning in tonight. Good to see you all here. And, it's really exciting to see what's going on. It's really exciting to see how we're making progress on so many different fronts, in so many different ways, and with so many new people, coming in, becoming part of the team, becoming one of the groups. The reprehensibles are becoming a force in their own right, which is really interesting. The VFM, some of them were a little bit concerned because they said, well, we didn't get an email. You didn't contact us specifically about this stuff. And we didn't. I said, no, because the reprehensibles showed up so strongly that we didn't need to bring you in. I said, you're certainly welcome to come in, obviously, but it wasn't necessary because the reprehensibles showed up so quickly and so strongly. And that was really remarkable, especially considering the way that we had to deal with the curveball that the change in the system dealt to us. We had no idea when things were going to go live. And so not only has it worked out incredibly well, but there's well over 1,000 backers for the project. And so, this is very, very important for reasons that will become clear eventually. There's a Psychosonic song called "It Has Begun," and that's exactly the situation here, because, as you know, Owen is working on his situation, and that's already, we confirmed that that's already arrived, and the clock is already ticking, and so the battle is officially underway, and we are, specifically Owen, is going to win it. I have no doubt about that in the slightest. There's always curveballs. There's always things outside your range of expectations. But we have the experience with the situation. We know exactly what's going on. And we have a legitimately first-rate team with experience in precisely these situations. And so I'm very confident. But we get a reminder today of why this sort of thing is necessary. Just today, both John Delarose and Declan Finn had books that were erased, eliminated by someone at Amazon. It wasn't a complete deplatforming. Both authors are still there, but they're published. And I'm not sure what the situation is. It might not even be aimed at them. It might be aimed at their publisher, Silver Press, I think it's called, because at the same time they also had something happen with regards to their account at Barnes & Noble, the publisher's account. And so, this is happening again and again and again and over and over and over. Is the replatforming campaign ongoing? Yes, it's going to be ongoing for a while. I'm not asking everybody to stick with it indefinitely. What we're going to do is, I've realized that this is actually, ironically enough, because of the way that Amazon has completely destroyed the ebook market, then what we might do, if you guys like this, if you guys enjoy being able to get an ebook for $1 a month, what we might do is we might just leave it going and pump out books that way. And so yeah. Could one of the somebody asked for a link to the Junior Classic campaign. So so if one of the moderators could put that link in there, that'd be great. Sorry, I had to switch directions for a second there. You know, and what we're finding, you know, it's interesting because what happened recently, and just so you understand why things are so complicated these days and why we're having to shift gears so rapidly, is because the situation is constantly changing. You know, sometimes people say, well, you said that things were going to be this way for unauthorized, and they're not. You're doing things that way now. Well, if you want to see how drastically things can change, is that we started Castelia House as an ebook only house, as an ebook only publisher. We thought for sure that this was the wave of the future, you know, that a lot more people were going to want to read on devices, and this would be much more profitable because you didn't have to deal with all the printing costs and all that sort of thing, right? And it started off that way pretty well. You know, we grew solidly from 2014 through 2017. And then in 2018, we ran right into Kindle Unlimited. And I didn't understand the full significance of that, because I thought Kindle Unlimited was going to be to the advantage of independent publishers like us, because we could be on Kindle Unlimited and the mainstream publishers couldn't. But what we didn't realize was that Amazon was going to weight the scales. They were going to use their algorithm to push certain authors and push certain books, and not push other authors and not push other books. And it's not necessarily anything insidious. A lot of the authors that they're pushing are conservatives. You know, Nick Cole is doing great. Richard Fox is doing fantastic. You know, these are solid conservative authors, authors who were persecuted, especially in the case of Nick, persecuted by the mainstream editors and so forth. But what Amazon decided to do was to compensate the authors on a very reduced per page basis. So it was a double whammy. First, if you sold a book, you got paid whether the person read it or not. In the case of the Kindle Unlimited, you didn't get paid anything if the person downloaded it. And then you got paid about 1/3 as much on average as if somebody had bought a book and read it. So the net effect of a complete Kindle Unlimited read is about 1/4 the value of the average ebook sold. Now, why does that matter? Because the more books that are available in Kindle Unlimited, the more that pool has grown. And so when you look at the amount of the pool that it goes in there, it used to be 2 million went into the pool. Multiplied by 4, that meant ebook sales were down by 8 million overall, right? Now, that pool is up to 25 million, which means that every month, 100 million in potential ebook sales is destroyed. And so because of that, we've focused. Now, fortunately, we recognize this relatively quickly. And again, because we're very, very quick to make decisions and make adjustments and change our course, we shifted over to print. And we've been pushing print. We sell it It's available through any bookstore. It's available directly through our Castelia Direct and Archaven Direct stores. On the audiobooks, we pulled out of Audible, not completely, but we stopped going exclusive with Audible. We actually had to negotiate that one because our contracts were tied up for 5 more years there. And so we managed to get out of that. And so now we sell the audiobooks directly at Archaven Comics. And, these are changes that you have to make if you want to stay alive, if you want to stay competitive, if you want to continue to move forward. And so this, this project that we've got with corporate cancer, if you guys want, we'll just continue, corporate cancer is going to come out as promised in November, probably very soon. I mean, we're probably talking about 2 weeks. And then if this works for you guys and you guys want to stay in that project, then we'll just, put another book into it the next month and another book into it the next month. Maybe it'll grow. More likely it'll shrink. But the main thing is that it's going to, it's ironic. Jedi Bear says, I will pay more for something from Castelia House because I know whatever I pick up from there will be good. Kindle Unlimited has a lot of trash on it. Oh, tons of trash. It's just hopeless, most of it. But you won't pay more for something from Castelia House because if we continue this project model, our ebooks are only going to be $1. And so if that works, if enough people like to support it that way, hey, I'm always open to a new model. I mean, it might be a little bit ironic. On the one hand, we've got ebooks for sale for $1, and then on the high end, we have these Castelia library books that'll probably run about $2.50, but they're going to be massively popular among collectors and stuff because nobody is doing books at that level of quality now. The deluxe, the Castelia deluxe books, which are going to be great, they're at the level of quality that are currently available for the collectors. The kind of stuff that's being produced by Folio Society and Easton Press and so forth. Somebody asked, why would you call it library? Wouldn't deluxe be better? First of all, the deluxe is already great. The quality is going to be great. But the library is a reference to Franklin Library. And in the 70s and 80s, they produced what are still considered to be the highest quality collector, leather books for collectors out there. Some of them were done in really high quality goat skin. They were all, genuine gold throughout, et cetera, et cetera. They did this really nice thing. In fact, I have one. They're called signed first editions, and they actually worked out deals with publishers and authors that allowed them to come out with these limited signed editions before the books actually came out in hardcover, which was kind of crazy. And whoever picked the books there did a pretty good job. A lot of big names, but they did do a pretty good job of picking books that ended up becoming fairly notable. Shane Bradman says, I bought some deluxe books from the Tolkien store. The paper is good, but the covers are bad. Yeah. Let's see. Zoomer Bear's got a good question. When membership started, I recall you saying that we would do one members only chat per week. Is there a reason this is not continued? Mostly because I don't even know what day it is. I've been that busy. We've got to do that, and I'm going to get back to that. Just like I'm going to get going with the book reviews for the gold folks only. I'm seeing a Franklin Library set of 100 for sale, worth buying. Depends on the price. I mean, if they're selling it for $25,000, I would say no. If they're selling it for $2,000, I would say absolutely. Um, Outdoor Enthusiastic says members only chat almost doesn't seem that necessary. This chat is pretty quality. No, but I said we do it. We need to do it. You know, especially if that's what people want. In case you're not aware, the issue is that we've been very, very involved with some of this legal stuff, and at the same time, we've been setting up Castalia Deluxe and Castalia Library, and we published the Alt Hero Q. We're getting Avalon 5 and 6 ready to go. I'm still behind on a couple other comics, and Corporate Cancer is coming out very soon. And that doesn't even get into the movie stuff or some other projects. So, one thing that you sort of have to get accustomed to with me, if you're not accustomed to what I do, is that I'm very ruthless with my priorities. If I can't possibly do everything that I'm supposed to do, and so if I can't do it, I'm usually not going to bother with a half-assed thing. I'll just not do it until I can get around to it. Want to be a member? That's funny. Gordon Runkle says Alt Hero Q number 2 is great. Amazon is slow on publishing reviews, perhaps sifting out the trolls. Yeah, I mean, I wish they would do a better job of sifting out the trolls. It's so obvious what kind of reviews are fake. I wish they would just do that. But c'est la vie. Big Bear at the Gate has banned all the hangers-on, so less riffraff creeping into the party. Maybe they're also reading How to Reform Gamma Tendencies. I hope so. Gammas aren't happy being gammas. The more that they can be encouraged to stop being, pretending to be secret kings and focus on just becoming solid, respectable deltas, the happier they'll be. Yeah, we'll finish the book review of Mere Christianity. I just have to remember to get the quiz up early enough in the day. For example, I've been the last, 3, 4 nights. If you notice, I'm doing this at 8:30, right? Because I wanted to do it tonight, but I couldn't get away until now. I couldn't find the time till now because, we're meeting with the binderies, we're meeting with the printers, we're dealing with other stuff that I can't talk about. So it's, I've got to I've got to get some Boxiversities recorded. I'm not complaining, and I'm not asking for sympathy. I'm just letting you know why some things are happening and other things are not at the moment. So, the way that I'm set up here, I can't really do this when there's a lot of people in the house and so forth. So, just one day at a time. That's right. Would the world be a better place without any gammas? Well, it'd be better if those people with those particular talents didn't have those behavioral patterns. We don't need the behavioral patterns, but they are actually subject matter experts. They are actually fairly, above average smart people. So, welcome, Padre Gio. Is that a reference to Padre Pio? If so, I'm impressed. What has to go right for an Omega to find a partner? He just has to stop. He has to get out of the way of his own weirdness. I mean, Omegas need to get over themselves. Both Omegas and Gammas tend to create their own problems due to their hyper self-obsession. For example, the reason we caught a little bit of Ghostbusters 2, and of course the Sigourney Weaver's boss, Jan, whatever. Classic Gamma. The fact that she's not interested in him doesn't even enter into the picture, because all that matters to him is that he's interested in her. Total self-obsession. And with the Omegas, they insist on their forms of behavior, their patterns of behavior being better or preferable or superior in some way to normal people's. Or else they just don't, pay attention. It's really not that hard to look at what other people are wearing and wear something like that. It's not that hard to take a shower every other day. It's not that hard to get your hair cut once every 3 weeks or once a month or whatever. But Omegas can't manage it. Grizzly Mama Bear says, I have an Omega always asking me for help. He's so obsessed with himself and has a victim complex. Yeah, I mean, that's the general rule. Zoomer Bear says, if an Omega has friends, they should ask for honest advice on improving their appearance and hygiene. But that's the problem. If they ask for advice and it's given to them, then they won't take it. They will argue with you. They will explain to you why you're wrong. And that's frankly why I don't give a damn about the misery that Omegas and Gammas put themselves through, because they literally choose hell. And I think it's almost a metaphor for people who reject the truth of Christianity. It's offered to them. They just reject it. So, Skullduggery Nerd Bear the Reprehensible says, Graduating Gamma was a great read. Yeah, I didn't write that. Keep in mind, I didn't write that. What are you? I'll get to the super chats later. Delta is the most common status and category. Gammas just need a chance to be seduced by a redhead out of the blue, when she recognizes how clever and special he is, and how respecting of women. Yeah, but that's just classic, Gamma self-delusion. I respect women, therefore women must like that. Therefore, that must be, the what makes men attractive. That's not paying any attention whatsoever to what women like. Welcome, Movement Explorer. But let's talk about hope. And let's talk about being afraid to hope. There was a guy on the blog today, and I'm not busting on him. I'm just citing this as an example that I see many times. There's so many people that will tell you, well, don't put any trust in Q, or don't put any hope in this person, or don't put any emotional investment in this news, because what if it's false? What if it's a trap? That's the worst one. What if it's a trap? What if the whole idea is to embarrass people, and then that will be demotivating, and then it'll be bad? So we shouldn't hope. We should just live in fear that we might be wrong. I mean, if you think about that, this is actually related to the Gamma stuff, because what does it have to do? Have you ever heard of a movement losing steam, or becoming entirely discredited because it's wrong? Socialism is still popular, despite the fact that it is absolutely wrong and has been provably, observably wrong for dozens of years. Absolutely dozens of years. I mean, many multiple dozens of years. well over a century. And so when you look at these concerns, what you realize is that the advice that they're giving, be afraid to believe anything, be wary, be careful about hoping. I mean, this is exactly the opposite of what pretty much every great philosopher and great military leader has ever said. Hope and daring and being aggressive and moving forward, that's how you win. You don't win by being afraid that you might misstep somewhere. You don't win by being afraid that you're going to be discredited. It's just a philosophy of fear. It's a conservative philosophy of fear, because you mostly hear this from conservatives. Well, what if it's a trap, and then this, and then it'll demotivate? And I mean, again, what are we talking about? We're looking at somebody who is fundamentally self-centered, fundamentally concerned about what other people think of them. Jesus did say it many times, do not fear. You're not given a spirit of fear. So don't accept a spirit of fear. Don't take it into yourself. Welcome, Bunny Bear, or welcome, glad to see the upgrade. Grizzly Mama Bear is right. She said, I walked out on a date once because the guy said, I don't ever get my hopes up about anything because that way I can't be disappointed. I don't date cowards. Yeah, you shouldn't. Who dares wins. If your major goal in life is to avoid disappointment, then you might as well become a Buddhist monk or a Roman Stoic. There's absolutely no point in living your life to avoid disappointment. I used to think that it was good not to be hypocritical. Being hypocritical, that's bad. But not really. Being hypocritical merely means that you have high enough standards that you find it difficult to meet them. In that sense, in the sense that people are using. I'm talking about honest failure. I'm not talking about genuine hypocrisy, which is when you don't mean it at all. You're fundamentally lying and living a pretense. Christianity is inherently hypocritical in that particular sense because we are told that all are fallen. Does that mean that we can't say it doesn't smell so good? And I'm trying to quit smoking. Don't smoke so you don't have to be like me. That's the difference. And no, Village Idiot Bear, we don't all get into heaven. Or are you saying that's the joke? I don't know. Anyhow. If being wrong gets you down, you never cared about the cause you espoused. I think so. When will Unauthorized get live streams? I don't know if we will. I don't know if it is going to make sense or not. We're getting the apps first, and we're going to see how that works. This is what I was talking about when we were told one thing about the bandwidth, and then because the Big Bear crushes so hard, we found that we were going to have to pay significantly more than the original model because we broke the model. And so now we need to figure out how that's going to work. But one step at a time. I mean, obviously, we would prefer to not have these things dropping and so forth. Well, Maximum Steiner, now you're banned. Adios. Well, Village Bear, you're clearly too stupid for this channel. And yes, I do know a lot more than you. I'm vastly more intelligent than you are. So, do gammas even serve a purpose? All the gammas I've known love to tear people down. Well, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's overcoming them is a useful talent to have. Because I appreciate your logical optimism, which I believe comes from the heart and from God. Well, remember, Jesus gives us hope. He literally said he came to give us hope, among other things. And I think that's one of the reasons why you see so much despair in this post-Christian society. Because they turned away from Christianity, or they were driven away from Christianity, and now they lack hope. This is not a surprise. This is not, this is expected. This is what you would expect when you see this. Hey Vox, I don't judge people, but I'm having a hard time explaining that to my girlfriend. I have no idea what that is. So you need to be a little more specific about those things if you want an answer. Village Idiot Bear. Yeah, well, they do tend to be very eye focused. That's the thing that's strange about gammas, is that there can be 600 people here, and they will start trying to argue with you as if they're the only person there. It's crazy. Let's do some super chats, because I've seen a few coming through, and I don't want to miss them. Let's see here. Okay. Marie Golay says, if it would stop raining, I could play golf. Not a lesbian, just like the game. I have to admit, a woman who likes to play golf does not make me question her particular orientation. It's just a sport. Swolair of Astora says, just wanted to say thank you for all that you do, and that I signed up for YouTube membership and back the classics. Well, thanks very much, and that's great. We're actually rapidly approaching 1,000% of goal, and the campaign is only halfway done. It's really remarkable. I knew that there was a demand for these things, that there would be a demand for them. I was raised on them. I raised my children on them. So I knew that there would be a solid demand for it, but I was not expecting that with more than half the campaign left, that it would be at 989% of goal. That's just astonishing. Let's see here. Is Qui Gong evil? I have no idea. Bunny Bear says, hey Vox, I'm reading Jordanetics and I can't stop listening. Your writing and that narrator are a perfect match. Highly recommend. Love your work. Thanks, Bunny Bear. Jordanetics is really something that I wish everybody who was taken in by Jordan Peterson would at least flip through. His teachings are so poisonous and so destructive that it's just appalling that anyone ever paid that lunatic any attention. And remember, whatever he was in for rehab for, it was definitely not meth. That is probably never going to stop being funny. I mean, it's It's actually funny because we started doing that in Spain, and I mean, still to this day, I'll get a phone call like, definitely not meth. Marie Golay said, "When you have a moment that is appropriate, what is the oldest book that you own?" I think I've got two that are from the 17th century. But my favorite old book is I have a very old, I think it's even a first edition of Charles Oman's Art of War. The the Art of War in the Middle Ages, the smaller original version, which is pretty cool. Kevin Carter says, "What do you recommend for letting go of trauma?" I don't know because I don't know that I've experienced enough trauma to have any advice for somebody who has experienced serious trauma. But I guess, you know, pray for acceptance. You know, I mean, I'm kind of naturally stoic in that if I can't do anything about a situation, it doesn't tend to bother me too much. I don't tend to dwell on it. So I guess not dwelling on it would also, but you know, I realize how useless that sounds to somebody who is dwelling on it, right? But um, Baron von Blair says, "For the quelling." Thanks, Vox. You're welcome. Nathan Quinn says, "What are you besides someone I admire?" I'm a nationalist. I'm a Christian. If we're talking about social ranks, I'm a Sigma. Marie Golay just feels warm here. We may need to stage an intervention for Marie soon. Legionnaire Bear, who's been strong, says, "What supercomputer ran the Welcome to My Mind video? It's peak technology. Shames modern video games." I wouldn't go that far. And was made in '93. Redware Bear showed me the video. That was actually a video that was done by, I believe, an MIT computer. I happened to see the video. It was produced before the song. It had nothing to do with the song. But when I saw the video, I was working in high resolution graphics at the time. And so I used to see a lot of stuff that was just being done for tests and whatnot. And when I saw that, I realized it would make a perfect video. That's also how we got the Silicon Jesus cover. They were just, I believe I saw them in a magazine called Computer Graphics World, and then contacted the people who made them and asked for permission to use them. So that turned out pretty well. Do you think Grime Knight says, "Do you think the millennial Gen Z obsession with cringe and wanting to avoid being cringy a part of this demoralization to some degree?" Well, yeah, obviously. I mean, both types are a little bit excessively self-centered, and so they're trying to avoid feeling bad about themselves. It's like when you're learning a language. There's two types of people. There's those who won't say anything unless they know how to say it correctly, and there's those who just plow ahead, making mistake after mistake, and not worrying about it. And usually it's better to be the second kind if you want to learn the language. Nathan Quid says, "There is none that do good, no, not one." Paul. This is true. And Girth Bear wants to know, how can I become a better editor of my writing? Stop rewriting when you're editing. Just make notes. Don't rewrite. You have to learn how to blast through it quickly, rather than becoming one of those writers who doesn't get anything done except for rewriting the first 3 paragraphs over and over and over. Zammy Pup, the giant sheepadoodle, says, "Vox, you have changed my life. You've given me hope both on the publishing front and on the beautiful, good, and true front. You, Owen, and Space Bunny provide my family the grounding I cherish." That is amazingly eloquent for a canine. And I think we're all, of course, massively impressed. Um, and it's also a nice reminder that we need to get that book out. So, anyhow, thank you, Zammy Pup. Chris P said Rebels Run movie update. We're working on the script, and they're going to start. It's in pre-production now. The Norseman Wandered says 1 Corinthians 13:13. And now these three remain, faith, hope, and love, but the greatest of these is love. It feels great to have hope here with all of you. Crushing. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. The Bible tells us how important hope is. Maybe it's not quite as important as love, but it's equated with faith. And so why would we say, no, don't hope? Be careful not to hope. What if things don't turn out right? I mean, imagine how devastating it was to the disciples when Jesus was crucified and died. Absolutely shattering. And yet they still had hope. And that hope, against all reasonable hope, against all reason and rational thought, was rewarded. So don't be afraid to hope. It doesn't guarantee that what you hope for is going to happen, but you shouldn't be afraid to hope. You shouldn't be afraid to dream. You shouldn't be afraid to hold to your faith. And of course, don't be afraid to love. My Shield is discussed as, should we have doubt about the shape of the earth? No, you should not. You can. I don't have a problem if you do. It's mildly amusing to me the way that people react to the way that I look at things. My thinking is very, very much that the view expressed by Sherlock Holmes in, I think it was the first Sherlock Holmes story. And Watson is appalled by the fact that Holmes doesn't care if the sun goes around the earth or the earth goes around the sun. He says, well, how can you not care? And Holmes very rightly says, what does this have to do with anything in my life? It has nothing to do with me. It has nothing to do with my life. I don't care. And that's my opinion about the shape of the earth, and frankly, quite a few of these things. I don't care. It has nothing to do with me. Owen loves to dive into these things and puzzle them out and that sort of thing. And that's fine. That's great. I read terms of use for entertainment. We all have different focuses. We all have different interests. So, it's something that you just have to, if it's of interest to you, if it's something that you are curious about, that's all fine. That's all good. But it's not something that you need to be concerned about if it's not of interest to you. I don't worry about it. So, anyhow, let's see here. Top 10 terms of service video. Yeah, that's funny. No, but I mean, how do you think we know how to do these things? I have an entire, and I'm not the only one, we have an entire database of, jurisdictions and systems and all this sort of stuff, because that's what I'm interested in. Owen likes to study Antarctica and uh, geology. Fine by me, but I don't worry about it. I'm concerned with the replatforming. I'm concerned with making sure that we help Silicon Valley. The whole place is going down. Yeah, we're at 1077. That's absolutely massive and is enough to pretty much deal with any social media company uh, below the Facebook, Amazon, Google level. And so, regardless of which way that particular platform chooses to go. And I have very little doubt. Let's see here. Okay, I'm missing some. Oh, there we go. Christian Correa said, neither Catholic nor Orthodox, yet I'd never call you a Protestant. What gives? Well, probably because I'm not protesting either Catholicism or the Orthodox Church. I'm just a Christian. I'm not, I don't allow myself, I don't define myself by the traditions of men that have been applied to Christianity. I'm not claiming that I got it more correct than everybody else. I doubt that. But, I think that it's really foolish for Christians to get caught up in their theological battles. We have a much more important war that's being waged against us, all of us. And I'm more than happy to stand by my Catholic brothers, my Orthodox brothers, my Calvinist brothers against the evils of this world. I think that it's a massive mistake. We can argue. We can disagree. If you look, you can look it up on the blog. We did a long debate between me and 4 or 5 members of what we called Team Calvin. And they came up with what they felt were their best arguments against my positions, and I responded in kind. I think that you might find it very interesting. It was no holds barred. But throughout the entire thing, you'll see that we understand that we're fundamentally on the same side. Let's see here. Is this a cult? No, it's not a cult. Did you not hear what I just said about not being concerned about the differences between Catholicism, Eastern Orthodoxy, and Protestantism? Cults are the exact opposite. A cult is a group that insists that it alone is linked to the truth. It alone, and none of the other various related religions and denominations and so forth have any truth to them. So, no, this is literally the opposite of a cult. Dances with Logo says, can you say you truly believe a Calvinist is your brother against evil? Absolutely. One of my closest business partners is a Calvinist. One of my primary and most important readers who really don't like the teachings of John, or like or respect the teachings of John Piper. I love to mock his statement that tornadoes are Jesus dragging his fingers across North America. one of the most ridiculous metaphors I've ever heard. And I hope it's a metaphor. But, you know, I have no doubt where their hearts are. Let's see. Oh. Let's see here. Yeah, it's not compromise. JG Phoenix says what Vox is doing is the opposite of compromise. Agree to disagree and fight the real enemy. Yeah. All right. What's wrong with Calvinism? We don't have that kind of time. Just look it up on the blog. You'll see my my many reasons. I think I missed a super chat here. Let me make sure that, and then we'll call it an evening. Tom Hoyt sends a $10. Thank you. Ben Cohen says, do you think cryptocurrency has as much potential as the internet? No. It's too dependent on energy. And that covers it. So, all right. Well, thanks very much. I really appreciate the strong backing for both the Junior Classics as well as the Corporate Cancer Project, the replatforming. This is the Darkstream.